Okay, guys, so we are just a few today. So this will be even better because we actually want to make a event today that behave more than as a discussion panel, that as a presentation. We will be discussing the .NET Cross platform in 2022. Basically, we're just going to give a quick overview of where we think that .NET is right now in the cross platform development world. And then we're gonna kind of create the foundation of what it will be all the next couple of months meetups. In February, we're gonna have a meetup about Uno. In March, we're gonna talk about MAUI completely. In April, we're gonna talk about MAUI Blazor. In May, most probably we talk about Avalonia, and we already have a few speakers already lined up. Microsoft MVP, another ones from the community, and anyone actually who wants to discuss, we are more than welcome to it. So our meetup is starting. We have, again, we started this meetup like 2 years back, and then with COVID and everything, we just decided to put it back today. Hopefully in the next few months, we start doing in-person events again. We already have a venue here in Arizona that we can actually go there, and but we always will do also the recording version because I think there is a value to also come back to it later. So with that out of the way, let's talk about .NET cross development in 2022. So this will be basically, as we say, a discussion panel. So feel free to unmute yourself, feel free to ask any question, and just to discuss. Basically, what we want to cover here is where we are in .NET in 2022 in terms of cross development. So basically, this is our user group, and of course, .NET right now, I think that there is no better moment to be a .NET developer than right now. We can target web, mobile, desktop, iOS, Mac, Linux, IoT, machine learning, like you name it, we are there. We are running in Raspberry Pi, we are running in Mono, we are running in a phone, in a fridge, in a watch, everywhere we right now can run in .NET. So with that one, we want to look briefly touch Hoshi and I. We are I'm a Microsoft MVP, Hoshi is a Dev Express MVP. This is what we do 24/7. We really enjoy everything .NET related. We touch briefly a few other texts, but honestly, we always come back to .NET Visual Studio, the tooling, the debugging, the nuggets is just, in our opinion, and there is nothing wrong with the JavaScript framework, but it's a very experience in terms of libraries, in terms of what we're used to. And that's one of the points that we want to make today. It's not about the technology, it's about what you are used to, what your experience, what you feel more comfortable with. So basically, if you see the picture, we have a few technologies that are just basically being the edge in .NET today. Is Blazor, Xamarin, that actually is becoming MAUI, and Uno platform. And we don't have Avalonia here, but we definitely will touch a little bit of Avalonia. So those are the frameworks that we can develop in .NET cross-platform in 2022. So let's start putting them apart. So one of the things, and Hoshi, feel free to interrupt at any time when we get the presentation, but basically when you say, okay, I have a new idea, I'm gonna develop a new app, what is the first thing that you do? Like, what is going to target? It's gonna target web, it's gonna target desktop, it's gonna target mobile, where, like, and if you think about web has always been a disconnection. It has been a language for the server side and JavaScript for the browser, for the client side. And even if Node.js closed that gap a little bit for you be able to use JavaScript on the server and JavaScript on the browser, there was still too many other choices. And I always thought that was a shame, that you will be maybe a Python developer, you will be maybe a Rust, you will be some .NET developer, that's all, and then you have to learn a different language all completely to work on the browser. And hope gladly with WebAssembly that changed. Now you can compile to WebAssembly that's intermediate bytecode, and you can have .NET, Java, and other language running on the browser. So we'll get to that. But the main concept is like, why do we have to have three different teams, one for web, one for desktop, one for mobile? Why do we have to do that? Why the web can only be JavaScript? So basically, the idea here is like one code, deploy everywhere. Deploy web, deploy desktop, deploy mobile. And especially if it's a one language that you already know. Like if you already know .NET, you know that reading a file is the same in the client, in the browser, in everywhere. If you already know .NET, you know that the nuggets, the library for image, for any image, I don't know, modification that you have to do is the same one. So why you have to do some? So let's talk briefly. the history of desktop app, web apps, and mobile apps. Desktop. So without going a little more further back about Visual Basic and other things that I do believe they had really a huge impact of development today, we talk about the technology that we have in .NET. We have WinForms that even if a lot of people have saying all the time, it's dying, you see that WinForms made it to .NET 5, made it to .NET 6, click once, got an upgrade. So it's definitely still a valid technology with millions of applications running today. Then we have WPF. So WPF improved the way about pixel resolution, high density HDPI screens, and it was a different model. And actually, it's still really used in a lot of really huge bank corporation, a lot of huge enterprise. And then came the Universal Windows Platform, the UWP, that it was going to be the one code that rules all, of course, in the Windows world. You will have it in IoT, if you see, in mobile, when Windows Phone, and that's a shame because we really like the Windows Phone UI, and it completely like got disregarded. I think that it was not having the greatest execution. And then right now today, the problem there is that UWP, all this platform was too tied to Windows. Right now, then WinUI came to solve that issue, came to solve like some type of decoupling for the operative shifting. And then there is a lot of control, and it used to be called, I think, Project Reunion. So in desktop app, this has been the trend: WinForms, WPF, UWP, and now WinUI. But I wanted to put it here in the bottom line smaller because they are like now growing and growing. Avalonia has been the way to modernize WPF. So if you already know your SAML from WPF, that will be a huge advances to move that application to a more modern approach that works cross-platform, because Avalonia, you can target macOS, you can target Linux. Uno platform is another one that it was really smart. And I have to say, Jerome Levan did amazing work there. They say, okay, I have like 40 developers that knows UWP, that knows Windows development, how I bring that to mobile. And they actually, through source generation and through black magic, I have to say, they were able to compile with the same SAML of UWP through iOS to Android. And they did some crazy where they take the base view from Android, the base view from iOS, and they take the UI element from UWP, and then they make an interface of the dependency object. That's the one to create the data binding for UWP. And with that one, we are able to make iOS and Android implement that interface, and then we can bind to all the targets. So we'll get to Uno, but I think that that's a great tool as well. And of course, the new platform that Microsoft is pushing for desktop development will be MAUI. MAUI will be target macOS and Windows officially supported. Of course, after that, they have Tyson, they have other GK, what is the one for Linux, Josh, is GKT, GTK. So it's a great community effort there. So basically, we'll be able to target a lot of those. So that's desktop. Let's move to web apps. Web apps has been forever like ASP.NET with Forms, that it has his scalability issues. It has his, we have to refresh the whole page. We have to do the whole post back when you refresh, and you need to wait for this. So everything is happening on the server, and the server, every time that does something, you need to do a callback and send it. And even if that got better with Ajax, it was still just cumbersome. But everyone liked the component model of web forms, component model that it was really close to the WinForms, that you can drag controls, you can click on it and have an event handler. It was easy to develop, but it was not the most performant part, and that's why that was the place for all those JavaScript framework, Vue, React, Angular, and there are a lot of them, Backbone, Ember, Knockout. There are a lot of them. But the issue there is that you needed to have then two complete development teams. You need to have the development team for the client, a development team for the server, and then it was like, for example, validation should be the same client or server. Why do you have to reuse those code twice? So in that regard, there was always that disconnection, that again, you have a language for the server, a language for the client. And then came ASP.NET Core. ASP.NET Core has been I think one of the most revolutionary things for .NET, because they bring all that dependency injection that they start using actually is coming even to Windows now. So, and on top of ASP.NET Core came the way that, in my opinion, made us a web developer. Myself, personally, I never thought of myself as a web developer. I always was doing a desktop application. I was doing a mobile application, because I didn't want to deal with JavaScript. Nothing against it. Again, JavaScript is a great framework. And actually, I think that if you have a team that everyone knows JavaScript, stay there. The tooling is getting better and better, that you can, with just JavaScript, again, do desktop, do mobile, do web, do everything. Because again, there are frameworks like React Native for doing mobile. There are frameworks like that allow you to do that. But Blazor came to be on top of WebAssembly. So when WebAssembly come up and you were able to actually run that intermediate language in the browser, the Microsoft really smart. What they did is compile the .NET runtime to WebAssembly, and now we're talking. Now we can take our DLLs. Now we can take our C# code and download it to the browser, and we can start running natively with our native web server, without just letting the browser take care of that. So that's the other part. And I wanted to mention here, really important, Uno platform. Uno platform, one of their target, and I think that that's one of the advantage that it have on top of MAUI, is that it compiles to WebAssembly. So they actually created all the bindings from the control from WP to the controls in the HTML to controls on the web. Now mobile apps. So Jose, I'm gonna let you talk a little bit of summary so I can catch my breath, and then we'll come back to it.
Actually, Javier, in this case, I think you forgot like that flavor in between, the ones from Frank Kruger. It's not in production yet, but it's like we. I think that was the name, right?
Yeah. So if we see here,
so okay,
we have it here. We were getting to that. So basically, we're gonna discuss a little brief the Xamarin approach, then Xamarin Forms. Then we're going to talk about the methodology of Uno, and then we're going to talk why Uno does definitely target the web, but Xamarin Forms doesn't. And the way that Xamarin Forms target the web is through those community projects, the UI Webhead by Frank Kruger and the WebAssembly rendered for Xamarin Forms. But either way, they are not supported. And in the official documentation of MAUI, that is the evolution, they don't include web. So it's still, again, a risk to put it in I don't know, in a stable enterprise application. And you guys feel free to ask any question or to discuss your personal experience while we're discussing this. Okay, so let's just talk about Xamarin. Like, what was the great thing about Xamarin when it actually started?
Let's talk about a little bit about the history, and I guess you forgot to mention one, but maybe you're just too young, Javier. Basically, for me, the mobile development started with something that was called Accelerator Titanium. It was a JavaScript framework, and they provide the backend and everything. But at that moment, it was, I don't know, maybe 2011 or something like that. It was basically really difficult to use it because you have to have the SDK for all the Android stuff, all the iOS stuff also. And in general, like, it was a good idea, but it was really, really hard to implement an application. I mean, of course, the demos, they always work, you know. You feel like, oh, this is how I should go. And anyway, then after that, I said, like, well, I'm not a JavaScript developer. And especially because in those applications, they use a really strange pattern, the prototype pattern in JavaScript, that you can attach objects to properties, you can attach other objects to objects. So it was, in the end, really, really complex. It was super hard to maintain. And I was thinking, I wish I can do this on C#. And then I got my first membership from Xamarin. It was paid at that moment. It didn't belong to Microsoft. And I got like the cheapest one, which was like $25 per month. And still there was no Xamarin Forms at that moment. So I tried, and then I moved back to Accelerator Titanium for a while, because I wanted to write the idea of the single code base that runs in iOS and runs on Android, right? So after a while, they developed Xamarin Forms, and that's where stuff start getting like interesting for me, because I was able to write backend in .NET using C# and frontend also, which was the application in general. So that makes my life way easier, but the tooling was not like there at the moment. And you at that moment you have to use Xamarin Studio, not Visual Studio. There was a plugin in development from the time, so whoever thinks that Xamarin is too difficult today, they should have seen it like 8 years ago how hard it was. But anyway, that was my first. Those were my first steps in mobile development, and I kind of start to liking it, because when you use the same tooling, the same flavor of basically code, in this case C#, it started getting easier and easier. Of course, not even, Mono was not exactly implemented as .NET in the moment, so some stuff were like buggy somehow. But anyway, it was a big step to move forward in the end. So basically, that's my experience with mobile development. Then it started becoming easier, like Xamarin Forms start to grow up somehow. Because at the beginning also, Javier, what was kind of disappointing for me at the moment is that even when I was using C# code to make applications, you still have to have two paradigms. Like you were writing C# code for iOS on the iOS like MVC infrastructure, and then Android code in C# using the activities and all the stuff that comes from Java. So still at that moment, the reusability of code was not that much. You can use something like at least your business logic. But besides that, regarding the UI, you could not share anything. So that's where Xamarin Forms came for me actually to save my project, because you can write just once or almost like once and run it at least in 2 devices.
Yeah, but in that moment it was a great way to start in development, because before that was all Objective-C, then Swift UI. Then if you're gonna do Android, it's Java, then Kotlin. So for us, the net developers, it was a great way to actually start sharing the backend, even if we still have to do story views with storyboards with iOS, even if we have to do the Android XML, even if we have to do the. So it was a great way, the XAML on Windows. It was a great way to start using less code and reusing. And then it came Xamarin Forms. At the beginning, it was just somehow. No, it was known for like creating data entry. It was known for just, that's why the name Forms came, because it wasn't supposed to be like, it was for a prototype. It wasn't supposed to be the way to build like beautiful UIs. And that got disregarded real quickly. That got proven wrong real rapid. There is a lot of great, and actually today still Xamarin Forms app that are really beautiful. They are really quality level. So that was the way to share UI code and also C# code. And then the other way to develop mobile apps in .NET is Uno. And if you see, Uno is also on top of Xamarin. So they took advantage of all those binding between Mono and all the UI kit from iOS, all the Android UI for Android. And of course, in UWP, they didn't have to do nothing, because it's actually using the XAML from UWP. And in web, they did have to map to their own HTML and use CSS controls and everything. So it was a great way to work with the same code in all those heads, how they call it, but it's all those platforms. Then now it comes MAUI. That is still, of course, it's still in preview. It's still not mature enough. It's still, but MAUI will be the way to develop desktop and mobile in the Microsoft Word. And of course, the issue here is that we don't have web yet, but there has been a couple of attempts from the community. One is from Frank Wigger that developed the EU framework, that he actually do the same, because the architecture of Xamarin Form is really good. So you can play much, create your own render and render from the Xamarin core to any control that you want. So basically he went control by control, and he created an input, he created some dips, he created everything. And then we had a web application, and actually James Montemagno created a podcast application from it. Then we have the WebAssembly render for Xamarin Front that the Uno platform did. And they also actually created the same weather application that they have on the NetConf. They did it with that one. So with that one, we have to say in the NetCross platform, there is no magic recipe. So you need to choose your audience. So because, for example, if your audience is, I want to catch as much audience as possible, that will always be the web, the browser, the web, the more available thing for everyone. So if we're going to do internal tools for our company, maybe for day one it's perfect to do like install apps, desktop app that anyone can use that are more that they can take advantage of more processing power. If you're doing software as a service, so all those somehow variables that you need to take into account when you are developing. What is the framework that you're going to develop? What is the tool that you're going to use? The other thing is your team expertise. Does your team is good in Java, in JavaScript, in Python, and so depending of that, you can decide. But definitely, if you have a .NET shop, there is a lot of tools available. Last one, target device. Are you targeting mobile? Are you targeting tablet, desktop? What are you targeting? All of those will give you the best way to move forward. Do you are building somehow a medical software for something that is critical? You need to take into account the stability of the product. Is battle tested? How many applications? How is the community around it? So all those are questions that you need to take into account when you're choosing your framework. So let's talk now about all the choices that we just discussed. First one is MAUI. If you see MAUI here, everyone in .NET back and forward. So you will be able to do .NET in Android, in iOS, in desktop, and Mac, officially supported for Microsoft. So all those platforms, you will be able to handle official support, and there is a lot of great work there. There's a lot of community behind. Xamarin Form is really stable right now. I will say MAUI is not yet, but it comes with a lot of benefits. MAUI comes with a single project, single code base. That meaning that you don't have to be having different images, different resources, different fonts. If you have used MAUI, you know the conversion that if you have used Xamarin, the conversion that it gets every time, just the icons, just the image, just the font. Now we can handle all of those just in a single place. We're going to be able to do multi-targeting for easy reusable and have all your folders and even naming conventions that you can target different with conditionals. You can deploy to multiple devices, mobile, desktop, and of course, you will be able to build beautiful and native UI for any device. So definitely open source, check it out. Is one of I think that the most promising projects that is coming in the near future. I think that it will be general availability for the first quarter of 2022. They actually were trying to get it for .NET 6 release. They couldn't do it, but of course, there was a lot of work behind there. It was Visual Studio 2022. There was .NET 6. There was a lot of things about it because in .NET 6 came the joining of all those base class libraries. Now we just have one. We don't have like before .NET Framework, .NET Core, Mono. Now we just have one .NET. So again, we have here one project targeting multi-platform and device, one location to manage resource as fonts, multi-targeting, and one important thing here is SAML. And if you know, the SAML of Xamarin Form and the SAML of MAUI is not the same one as the SAML from WPS. It's not the same one as the SAML of UI. It's not the same one as the SAML of Uno. So that's one thing that you also need to take in consideration. Is your team already is expert in SAML from those technologies? Is your team started learning? For example, myself, I started with Xamarin Form. So that's the SAML that I know. That's I don't go and do a stack panel. I do a stack layout. That's what it comes to my mind. So that's also another part that you need to take in account.
And that's a little bit tricky, Javier, because well, the Xamarin Forms community is huge. So sometimes you start thinking that the SAML is the main SAML. For me, in my mind, that's the only SAML that exists, even though I tested the WPF SAML at the beginning. I remember when that was launched. I don't remember the exact time, but in the office that I was working on at that moment, every time that Microsoft releases something new, they get the books for us. Those huge books that like phone books, like in the United States, like to check the numbers. So those are huge, almost impossible to read. But there is something like that was like a breakthrough in SAML for me, that you can extend it. It's a language that you can extend. It's basically XML somehow, a type of XML, that the idea is extensibility. So even though it might not be the standard one for everyone, I think that the SAML from Xamarin Forms is, at least for me, is as easy to find in the web C# code in general. Actually, I think that if you Google like SAML examples, most of them will be Xamarin Forms and not WPF.
Yeah, I agree. But if you think about this, WPF is still widely used in the enterprise. There has been a few attempts like SAML Iceland, the SAML standard, to like unify all those SAML, and it's a hard problem to solve. But honestly, if you watch, for example, Billy Hollis, he has a huge talk about how SAML is the best language for UI. But then you have the other, like this is like a huge debated topic. A lot of people like HTML is the language for UI. So basically here, what makes you more productive or gives you value to your clients faster?
It's complicated a little bit, Javier, because in the sense that I think that XML-based language, those are the best for UI. Because also if you check how native layouts are done in Android, they are XML. I don't know if they have a different name, like Android XML or something like that.
Yeah, it's AXML.
Yeah, but in the end, it's XML. So HTML is XML in the end somehow. So it's a language you can use the idea of tags, properties, and stuff like that. So you can basically create your own. So I think that those are the languages that I agree that are the best for UI, because in Windows Forms, you don't see that. The designer generates code, actually, doesn't generate SAML or anything. There is no language for UI in Windows Forms. It's basically C# code in general.
Actually, in a lot of those frameworks, the SAML get compiled to C#. So if you think about that, there are people who like to do the UI in C#. There are people who like to do the UI in SAML. There are people who like to do HTML. I learned it first in SAML, so that would be my preference, because I can see a SAML and in my head, I can try to think, okay, this is spec layout. We're going to put things one on top of each other. Then there is a grid. I know there is going to be 3 columns. I know where everything goes kind of by looking at it. HTML, you cannot do that. With CSS, you have a div inside another div with another div with a class. There is a row, then it's a column, and then it's like, if you don't see it, like, and that's the great thing about hot reload now, that you can do those changes really fast.
In that sense, you're true, because there is a separation in HTML between, like, I don't know how to call that, like how you use the colors and the attributes for the HTML and HTML itself. So sometimes what you write in your screen is not what you're seeing also in the device. So I guess in that sense, SAML is more useful in that sense. And also, as you said, for me it's the same. I can see the SAML code and imagine the screen, but that it's not like that in HTML.
But also I will say now, in trying to defend the other part, when you start SAMLing, you need to learn the libraries, you need to learn the APIs, and then on top of that, because you already know C#, you need to learn another complete new language, that is SAML. And then you need to, because SAML comes with a lot of things. SAML comes with data binding, SAML comes with triggers, SAML comes with converters, SAML comes with behaviors, and then it's just a whole learning curve that you need to learn. So definitely I will see both points, but again, it's always about what makes you productive. And in that regard, now that we were talking about SAML, there is MAUI Blazor that is also coming. And MAUI Blazor is a great concept, because you will be able to do your same Blazor UI, your same HTML UI, and embed it in a Blazor web view inside MAUI. So basically right here, there is no web service. If you see here, you have your web view that is actually just the DOM, and you have your Reusable component sending. There is an interop similar to Blazor server, sending all that information to the web view and rendering there. But make no mistake, there is no web service. Everything is in process. Everything is running native in the device, and everything is basically connecting that UI. And you can call Xamarin Essentials, that it will be MAUI Essentials. You can do everything there, access the device capability, access the sensors, and access the GPS, whatever you want. So this is a great tool that for people that are used to work in the web world, they will feel like home here in MAUI Blazor, and they will be developing with the same Blazor component, with the same Blazor design, with the same Blazor implementation to native devices, to desktop, to iOS, to Android, to mobile. So we'll get to that, but again, just wanted to mention real quick. So let's talk about Blazor. Blazor is the new kid in the web world. So we have all this JavaScript framework for a long time, and then it came to Blazor, that it will be the way to develop interactive web UI with C#. So the C# runs in the clients, and we have two modes, server and Blazor WebAssembly. Of course, the client, the WebAssembly is running in the browser, not server needed. The Blazor server is communicating through a signal really efficiently and sending only the change on the DOM that is needed. So they are keeping a memory of your DOM, and they are, every time that there is an event, they change it, they compare, and they only send back what they need. And that's the whole concept of the render tree. They have really optimized and a really copy of your render tree on memory. So they know what to send, how to send there, and send the lowest payload possible. And the great thing about Blazor is that like it's baseable. It's based on a component model. So it's kind of web form. So basically you have reusable components. Even your app is a component. Everything is a component. That is a component inside a component. So it's a great way to reuse your code, because you can take that component and use it in another part of your application. You can take that component, put it in another package, and use it in a complete separate application, as long as you do it. And even it gets parameters. So you can say, send, let's say, a HTML template as the input to another component. So think about that. You can do really dynamic things and really comprehensive things. And in that case, it will be like a drink inside a drink inside a drink, like the injection MAUI, that if you don't keep track of that little wheel, you can get like lost there. So let's talk about the JavaScript Interop. Really simple. In Blazor, this is one of the best things that I have seen. Like you can call JavaScript and interact with JavaScript really easy. You have a JavaScript Interop service, and basically what you do is you reference that from your host or your index, and then inject the JS runtime and call it. That's simple. Those 5 steps: create your file, reference from your host, put your JavaScript code, and the only thing that you need to know is import and output. You don't have to deal with anything else, because JavaScript has been around for a long time. So there are a lot of battle-tested libraries that you basically can just, let's say, Google Map, send the latitude and longitude, and only get the output back. So this is let's say, the roadmap that Blazor has covered. Server, that we just discussed, client, and then it comes like PWA. PWA basically is still inside the sandbox that Blazor provides. It's still not allowing you to read the file system, not allowing you to format the hard drive, don't allowing you to do the network, because you are still in the same sandbox that the browser offers you. But you can install your application, you can have home screen and taskbar icon, you can do push notification, you can have offline support through cache. So it behaves like a desktop app, but still inside the sandbox. But if we go to Electron, Electron actually goes a step further. It's still a web view, it's still the rendering inside that somehow, I don't know, virtual grabber, but it has all the APIs to access the file system. It has all the APIs to create the menus, to create everything we need. So it's actually a native desktop application. And of course, mobile, that we just discussed with MAUI Blazor. Before, there was a project called Mobile Blazor Binding. And if you can see, this is Blazor running inside the mobile. This is one thing that I wanted to show you. If you want to have Blazor and mobile, one of the first choice will be Blazor server, because it's so efficient that only send that URL. And if you see here, when they are clicking the button, the only thing that is being sent is the font weight bold, nothing else. You can see the so exciting is changing to bold. That's the only thing that is changing. And if you have seen this in web form, the whole page get pink. The whole thing reload. Right now, it just changed what it needs to change and what it needs to change. Payload of those Blazor message, 229 bytes. That's not by any means big. And you can see this is not meant to be readable, but you can even see that they are sending through that signal connection, things like phone style web bold in this WebSocket connection. PWA. Right now, if you do file new template, they already have the choice to select PWA, and you can right away install your app and have a look like a native app, while still keeping all those functionality of the Blazor sandbox. So, but you can have offline capability, home and screen, push notification. And if you, of course, want to do mobile with Blazor WebAssembly, I wouldn't suggest it, because Blazor WebAssembly need to download all the DLLs, all the .NET runtime, all your assets, all your JavaScript, all your CSS. But there is a great community project done by Dadon, where you can take all your assets, all your JavaScript, all your DLLs, everything, and zip it in a file. It's really similar of what PhoneGap used to do. It's like you take all your resources and you embed it inside your application, and through that embed, then you have a JavaScript Interop that you can call native apps. So this, you can do it right now. You can use it today. It's a really great community project. And of course, the Blazor Electron that we was talking about, that with just a couple lines in your global tools, you can say, okay, I'm going to target to Windows, I'm going to target to Linux, I'm going to target to Mac, and it will create the wrapper wrapper on top of your Blazor application. And Jose has a video on his channel talking about that, so I highly recommend it. Now, before MAUI Blazor, there was this experimental mobile Blazor bundle. So the name experimental is really important because Microsoft didn't want to commit to it. Like now, if you can see in the NetConf like 2022, they actually are doing a product out of MAUI Blazor. So basically, it's the same concept. You're going to be able to use the same component model in UI and desktop, and you also can do a hybrid application. So you can have half your screen using Blazor Web View and the other half of your screen using native components. So it's really amazing. And not only that, Coach, I don't know if I told you that there was someone in the community that took a Angular application and put it inside a Blazor Web View. Blazor Web View didn't care what you was sending to them. If it was Blazor, it was Angular. It just took all that one and rendered on the screen. So imagine the possibilities.
Yeah, you can go crazy in that sense, because also, okay, like imagine this, you have the web paradigm inside of the mobile application, and then you can compose your application from several other micro UIs. I think there is a design pattern which is like micro frontend or something like that. So you can compose your application from a lot of different frontends in the end. So I think that for that, they even have to recreate the web view, because those run on web view 2, right? Not in web view 1.
For that one, they create a specialized Blazor Web View that has a lot of things stripped out. There is just like the lightest web view that they could find, and they have a really great interop with the device functionality. So that's a kudos to them, a great implementation. If you see, if we come back to this MAUI Blazor, you have your web view and you have your Reusable component, and basically this is not WebAssembly. This is not running on WebAssembly. This is actually a web view that the only thing that is showing is the HTML of the DOM. If you see, even the Reusable component, it looks like they are outside of that DOM, because they are only sending that HTML. Everything is happening in process in the .NET runtime that is right there in the device. No web service, no. So
basically it's a view that do all the heavy lifting.
And that's why Angular you can send Angular, you can send anything, because at the end, the only thing that you are sending there is the HTML, is that the processing, the processed works. So again, web content in the same process, no app service. There is nothing weird like remoting between app domains. You can use, of course, Visual Studio. It will be everywhere where MAUI runs, it will be MAUI Blazor, because right now it's iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows supported, but we have GKT, I always pronounce it wrong. We have Tyson, we have WPF, we have a lot of community heads there. And how complex is it? Okay, it's still in preview, but again, I have seen people that already have MAUI Blazor application in the App Store. So that's depending. If you're not doing anything extra complicated, anything crazy, you most probably can get away with it right now. So these are all the things that are in .NET 6 with Blazor. So I'm just putting it there just to know that you will be able to bring all of those to desktop, to bring all of those to mobile through MAUI Blazor. Okay, MAUI. This discussion we just had it, HTML versus XAML, that's basically the whole, what it comes down to. What do you feel more comfortable with? Because if you're .NET, you're definitely using C#. Visual Basic is not being using any of those. It's not being supported. You can definitely call some standard library in Visual Basic, but that's not the main goal here. So let's talk about Uno. Uno, as they are putting in the website, is targeting all operating systems and browsers. If you see, even Linux, macOS, Windows, iOS, Android, they are doing Chrome, Safari, everywhere. They are targeting everything. And of course, their main ones will be iOS, Android, Windows, and Mac. Mac as the last thing. So, yeah, Uno is a different animal, because Uno actually is using the XAML from EWP and put it on Android, iOS, Windows, and the web. But what I want to mention here is to show a couple of these links, and let's get out of the presentation for a second. Let's go here and let's see. This is the Uno playground. So if you see, you can put here your XAML. and you can basically click run, and you will see how it's being displayed. So this is the same XAML that you're using in UWP, the same XAML that you're using in WinUI. And if you see, it's rendering on the web. You can do car, you can do viewbox, you see. You can start playing with this here, and you can change things around. And this, I don't know guys, but I think that this is amazing what we're able to achieve here. And let's see what else we can show here. Let's view selection. How do we select? And you see change, and you have the code here. So if your application you're trying to develop something and you see how they did, you can come here and start playing. Put any. You see, I always think a stack layout. Right here is stack panel. So they have a great image. They have a great community around it. Other thing is gallery. You can see that they are supporting material, fluent, all those design patterns, and you can see how they are gonna look the buttons, and you can see all the controls that they have: calendar view, car, checkboxes. All of those are available for you. And if you can look more into that, let's show a few examples. So they took Uno platform calculator. This is an application that is the calculator for Windows, that it has been around like forever, and it's a crazy. You will say everyone here has done a calculation, more probably calculator. This is a really complex calculator with a lot of scientific things, with a memory, with a lot of internalization, and this was done almost completely in C++. So they actually was able to bring it to C#, and they were actually able to bring it to desktop, to mobile, and to web. Another project that they did, if you see, this is all the things about converter, about scientific, about, it's crazy the amount of code that just one calculator has. I think that one that it was really good was Nugget Explorer, platform. And all of these are also mobile, so it's good to mention that. Right here. So if any of you guys have used the Nugget Explorer on desktop, this is the same app, and it's even better because you have it on the web, you have it everywhere. You can select a package here, let's say new to songs, and you see right away they start downloading, and you can see, go inside and see what are the libraries, what is referencing, what is. So if you see here, we can have the information, where is the repository, you can have source link, you can open and see what they have here. All the versions from all the .NET that they have, you can open that one, you can click on it, and it should give you some information here, some metadata. You can use all of this to the book to learn more, to see what is depending of what. So this is, again, great tool, and hopefully, let me see if I can. I think that it has a choice to open it right away directly. You see everything that is referencing from that one. So awesome tool by the Uno platform. And one of the things that I wanted to mention is this Uno platform workshop. So this Uno platform workshop is a great way to start with Uno, because they walk you through step by step how to build a Uno application, how to use what tooling to use, how to go from there. I'm happy to have contributed to the documentation in this project. I just did like a typo, and they put my picture in there. So, but if you start looking into there, you can hear the Uno bootcamp, and they are divided into modules. And if you can see, there is the overview. But one thing that I would like to show, probably, is a great reading if you guys have some time, is this source generation overview. So right here, they explain how they, in Uno platform, they needed to mix UWP views with native view. So that means that everything has to inherit from the base type from every platform. So in Android, they mean inheriting from view. On iOS, that mean inheriting from UI view. But that was an issue on UWP, because UWP need to inherit from UI element. And that UI element derives from dependency object. And that's the main important part, that dependency object is the class that has all those dependency properties that allows you to do data binding. So how do they resolve that? Through source generation. So when you compile, you will be able, that they did a I dependency object, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see, dependency object. They have a dependency object generator where they actually take all those, where an Android view will be also implement that one. And that means that you can use the same view in all the platforms. So it's just, I don't know, that German Levant, I don't know, that day he think about that, that was like black magic in my opinion.
That's pure black magic in the purest form.
And you don't even see it. You don't even see it. It's your code generated right there behind you. Okay, with that one, let's move to the last part, Avalonia. So Avalonia is the one who we have used the least, but we're gonna have someone who comes here in the meetup and talk about that. So Avalonia UI is a SAML-based UI framework, and it's a proven path for WPF app modernization. So if you have a WPF app that is just somehow linked to Windows, with Avalonia, you will be able to grow that. And it has a growing community and it's getting better. So let's look for Avalonia UI. And if you see here, it works with a lot of IDEs, Visual Studio Extension, VS Code, JetBrains. So, and it's completely cross-platform. We can see here they are even targeting iOS, Android. Even in my opinion, the iOS and Android implementation is not 100% there, but yeah, awesome tool. And that's the great thing that I like of what is happening in the technology world right now. If you are good in just one framework, in one language, I think that the tooling should take care of everything else. Should take care to deploy, to compile to iOS, to compile to Android, to compile. So reading a file should be the same in my language in every other platform. I shouldn't be the one dealing with all this complexities. So we're gonna have, before we finish, we're planning for February. We're gonna have Andres Pineda. He's one of the people who were inventing the company when Uno platform started. So we're gonna be talking about C# and SAML in the web with Uno platform. We're gonna be talking in March. Vicente Guzman and other Microsoft MP will be talking about MAUI. Give us a complete overview from beginning to end. And MAUI, I think at that time it should be almost, if not released or almost close to release, because there are a lot of things happening right now. There is, I think that all maps are already there. MAUI community toolkit is also growing. MAUI essentials, there is a lot of things there. We're also gonna be talking about MAUI Blazor, and I will definitely do a demo for you guys where we take a Blazor application and we share it in iOS and Android, in desktop and Mac. And I'm also trying to get Jeffrey Palermo, the host from the Azure DevOps podcast, to talk about .NET DevOps here on May. And then we go from there. We're gonna be talking about Avalonia hopefully in June. And we're gonna try to every month bring someone from the community who likes to talk and discuss about .NET in general. That's what we like, that's what we do. So thank everyone for coming. And if you don't have any questions, you can always contact us later, but see you in the next one.